Yes, it's a kit car. This is our kit car that we bought about a year ago, just prior to COVID. The reason we bought it is to sort of a promotional vehicle, if you will, and also to have a bit of fun, a few track days, sprints, hill climbs, maybe, whatever we can do. It's from a company called M&R, as you can see there. The model is a Vortex. The engine in it, I suppose that little yellow sticker there is a bit of a giveaway. It's got a Honda Fireblade carburetted engine over there. Now, I particularly wanted a bike engine kit car. It's nice and light, nice and revvy, sound good. A lot of people don't like them. They like the car engines because, it's a car at the end of the day. But no, I quite fancied something nice and revvy. The only downside to the bike engine kit cars is you've got a little clutch, so it's a bit finicky on the pedal. You don't get any reverse gear, obviously, as standard. There's two things you can do. You can have a sort of kit, which is almost like a starter motor, which is an electric reverse, or you can have a sort of box over there in the prop shaft, and you sort of get 6 gears in reverse and just a transfer box, really. But we haven't done any of that yet. But you do get the sequential gearbox, as you do in a motorcycle. So forwards is down the gears, backwards is up the gears. If you were to have, you'd be spending sort of getting on 8,000 quid to have a gearbox like that in a car, sequential box. So that's the beauty, really, of having a bike engine. It's lovely and light, nice and revvy, not very torquey, but to be honest with you, in something like this, it probably weighs 450 kilos, so that's all you need. So yeah, all in all, it's an absolutely fantastic car. I've been driving it on the road now for, as I say, a year. Absolutely love the thing. It's so much fun. For the money, I think we paid about £8,500 for this. It's got coilover suspension. I think the brakes and what have you are basically Sierra. It's got Sierra diff and calipers and discs and stuff. But yeah, with the bike engine in, absolutely brilliant. Cannot fault it. I love driving this thing. I pretty much use this when I can as a daily in the summer. Not so much fun in the winter. Bit lethal, a bit chilly, but yeah, still use it quite a lot. Now, the reason it's on the ramp, as you can see, the back end's sort of a bit stripped. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, we did a track day down at Barum on the airfield there. And, absolutely brilliant. Way better than I thought it was going to be honest with you. I did probably 2 sessions. It was a little bit on and off rainy all day. But one of the sessions started pushing pretty hard. Then I thought, I don't know whether it's me and I'm pushing harder, but it seems to be a little bit loose on the back end, especially under braking. So when, come out of that session, tighten the suspension up at the back, seemed a little bit better, so we carried on. Then it rained in the afternoon, and one of our employees came with us, Carlos, and he had a drive, and he went out in the wet and he said, no, it's lethal. So we came home, and it was only really because, obviously we do some sort of get underneath, do some visual checks, but it was only really I'd sort of decided to wash it. I was washing the far side rear wheel there, and noticed it was moving a little bit. Thought I was imagining it, and no, I wasn't imagining it. If you have a look down the back here, it's a little bit, I don't know whether you can see that. So this rear sort of subframe is what holds the suspension arms. Yeah, I know it looks a little bit like the underneath of rattan furniture in your garden. But yeah, that's it. And we've got, so I don't know how long it's been like this, but if you can see down there, there's a big crack in the chassis that moves. So obviously that's why that wheel was moving about. It's given away up here. I'm sure you can see that. Yeah, brilliant. It's only our lives, obviously, but Yeah, plenty more. Everywhere you can see little white Tipex marks is where it's cracked. So that is the reason we've took it to bits. In here you've got, this is where the fuel tank lies. You see the fuel caps there. The diff sits in here. Obviously the prop shaft goes there. So there's prop shafts under your left arm. Obviously underneath the gear lever there. So we've had all that out, took the suspension arms off. What we're going to do is we are going to obviously weld all this up. We're going to put triangle steels in where we can, and brace all this up. It just ain't man enough, to be honest with you, for what we're doing with it. So if you see down the back here, right down the, I don't know whether you can see down there, and again up here on this plate, you've got a series of holes. Well, what the car had before was these, I'll show you, they call them Cobra hoops. So that's your boot there, that goes on top of the fuel tank. It's just a bit of stainless steel there, and that's got like a bit of a, like a fibre thing, fibre cover that covers it. There's your bonnet. As you can see, the bonnet's a bit scuffed. Look, forgot to do that up on the track day, and it flew off. Got red flagged for the third time. So these are the hoops. You see them there? They're what they're what you call, they're called Cobra hoops, obviously to look like the AC Cobra style. Oh, I got in touch with MNR beginning of last week. They actually remember these cars because this is a 2006 model we've got here, which is one of their very first cars. And as you can see, it's actually box section chassis. It's like that all the way through. Let's say that was one of their early vehicles, which, see the box section in the front? That was one of their early cars, which they didn't do that for long, I think a couple of years, and they did away with it. Moved to tubular chassis, I think mainly because it's a bit stronger and you can sort of bend it. Obviously with this you can't, it's all sort of right angles and welds everywhere, which is not ideal, as you can see. So this had the Cobra hoops on the back. Now the disadvantage with the Cobra hoops, and M&R did say that they only supplied 2 cars with these hoops, and this was obviously one of them. Now the hoops are a bolt-in, so you've got a bar that goes down the back, up here, and meets the middle of the hoop, which obviously sits here, bolts in over there, and bolts in over here, sorry, over there and here. And the trouble is with the hoop, I think, I've come to the conclusion that because the hoops aren't joined to each other, there's no rigidity. You know, the whole back is allowed to flex backwards and forwards. So we had a word with them, and they are making us up a roll cage, full roll cage. The advantage is, I suppose, with that is it still mounts from this point and this point, but because it's one piece, we'll weld it in there as opposed to bolting it, and then the bars will come off down here, and the whole thing will be a lot more rigid because, as opposed to the hoops, they are joined. So it's going to strengthen the back end up a hell of a lot. And then from this bar, it's going to come down here, and then down into the floor there. So I don't know whether you can see that, but down here in the floor, you've got a bit of a chassis leg there, and obviously under here, we'll take all this off. We've got to weld plates in there, mounting plates. So we weld the roll cage in there, and also we've got side bars which will come off down here and in here. So we'll weld plates in there and weld that bar in there. So it's going to give the whole chassis a lot more rigidity. And obviously we can make it through a full track day without the back end nearly falling off, which was fairly lethal when you think about how fast we were going through the back chicane there, probably about over 100 mile an hour, which don't bear thinking about, to be honest. But so that's the plan there. I'm going to get that, hopefully get that to us by the end of next week. We'll start taking this thing to bits and get it all welded in and strengthened up. So I'll give you a bit of an update on that. The inside of the car, you've got the sequential box, as I say. We've got up and down the gears. We've got the little digital readout here. We've got water temperature. We've got a big altimeter gauge, which to be honest with you, it all looks a bit of a mess here. Got gear slate. This is all going. We're going to take all that out and make it all nice and neat. Get a nice one digital dash there and plumb everything into it. We got Lotus seats, which actually are very comfortable. I mean, I could spend all day in this car and it didn't give me backache. My back's not brilliant, but very comfortable seats. Got racing harnesses which bolt in here underneath the roll cage bar. Got a nice little snap-off Momo steering wheel with the Alcantara feel, very nice. The pedals down there, got a fairly small feet for this. I did actually fit a rail, an adjustable rail on the bottom of the driver's seat so we can move it backwards and forwards, which makes a hell of a difference. Plus it brings you up a little bit so you can see over the top a bit better. So that's great. Now to the business end, we got flat shifter, we got a rev limiter system here from Omex. Got the engine. It's got a custom manifold on here on the carburetors, but it's basically an old what do they call it, a 929 or whatever it is, Fireblade with the carburetors on. Custom air filter housing, ram air system if you like. I've got a breather catch tank there. Yeah, fantastic really. I mean, these engines, you can buy, if you see down there, you've got the drive which would normally hold the front sprocket for the chain. You can buy adapters like this has got on there, which, depending on what spline you've got, the adapter goes on there, bolts on as the sprocket would, and then bolts directly onto your custom prop shaft, which obviously runs at a bit of an angle, goes back through the car, and ends up there connected to the differential. We should be building the diff on this. It's got a little bit of play in it. And obviously the only downside to these bike engines in the cars is on a bike you've got a cush drive that the rear sprocket mounts to at the back. You haven't got it on this. So everything, because it's a straight cut box, everything goes through the gearbox, through the prop shaft, through the diff, through your drive shafts to the wheels, and you feel every clonk. So everything's got to be nice and tight. You just got to accept that you're going to get some clonks, but yeah, it is a lot more, I suppose, a lot more clunky than it would be if you had a car engine, but and also a lot more clunky than the bike engine would be in a bike with a cush drive. But you just got to deal with that. Makes it feel a little bit more racy. I love it. Yeah, you got coilover suspension. We've got nice Team Dynamics Motorsport wheels here, 15-inch, tiny little brakes, which, to be honest, I thought on track are going to be diabolical and they're going to fade within about 2 minutes. But to be honest with you, they're pretty good. And the car weighs, as I say, 450 kilos, so no issues there really with brakes. I'm not concerned. But yeah, as I say, the car's run, touch wood, it's run faultlessly. Since we've had it, haven't really had to do anything but put petrol in it. I've done an oil change obviously and changed the plugs and set the carbs up, but absolutely fantastic. Would highly recommend one of these. Should probably do a part 2 video when we get the roll cage and we start welding it in and fitting it. I shall come back to you and show you how it's all going on and show you what the bracing's like on the back chassis here, and hopefully, as I say, be a little bit stronger than it has been. But yeah, as I say, if any of you guys have got kit cars, and it's well worth doing a good visual check. I know they do an MOT, but the trouble is you find a lot of the time, definitely underneath the main chassis, it's got an aluminium plate. And I know on MOTs, what you can't see, they ain't worried about. But I would highly recommend every now and again, fairly regularly, doing a good visual check on the chassis, and because these things are great fun, but they're pretty lethal, guys. You certainly wouldn't want a T-bone accident or accident of any sort in it, really. That's why we're getting a roll cage. You've got to give yourself half a chance. But yeah, highly recommend doing that, guys. But as I say, we'll do a part 2 and show you how we're getting on. Thanks very much, guys. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you again. Take care.